My name is Johnny Rayford. Just wanted to make a couple of statements today about the racism in America. We are fighting about something that is fundamentally impractical. It doesn't make any sense to me as a born American, fought in combat, served my country for 11 years, traveled halfway around the world, live in Mississippi, and just wanted to talk about a couple of things that you might find quite interesting and intriguing. One of the first things I want to talk about is the N word. We need to stop using that particular word in our videos, speaking to the culture, black culture. We need to stop using that terminology, the N word, simply because of the fact that it's degrading, it's demoralizing, and it's just preposterous for us as a culture that have been under slavery to use a word so derogatory against ourselves. And let me just bring up the Confederate flag. Those that choose to represent the Confederate flag, more power to you. That's your prerogative. I'm not mad with you, and I'm not angry with you. Let me tell you why I feel that way. Simply because of the fact that, number one, I'm not an N-word. Number two, if you want to identify with a racist flag that represents murder, rape, pillage, and destruction of a culture, and you say that that is your heritage, that is your prerogative to represent the Confederate flag. Number two, blacks. How is it that you get angry with those people that want to hold the Confederate flag and say this is part of our heritage when we don't respect ourselves enough not to call each other the N-word? It's degrading in our videos. We talk to each other in that frame of mind with that mentality, and then we wear the banner that we're the only ones that can use the N-word because we are. How in the world did you identify yourself as the N-word and justify it when somebody calls you that word, and then you get angry with those that fly the Confederate flag? What's the difference? If they're representing a heritage of racism and bigotry and murder and killing of children and destruction of a culture, you represent the same thing. Which you using the N-word, being a black person, a person of color, and you get mad with the Anglo-Saxon because he uses the terminology, I want to use my Confederate flag, it represents my heritage. That's their prerogative. If they want to use the flag to represent their prerogative, to me, the Confederate flag represents hate. It represents racism. It represents a time in our history and in our culture that I would like to forget. But for people that are out there protesting and using the N-word, how can we get past this as a country when we continually perpetuate the ignorance of mankind? Now, let me give you a brief history and a brief synopsis of history. Number one, genetically and DNA, scientists have proven through history and research that everybody evolved from Adam and Eve. Adam has been historically and documented, DNA, genes, and everything else, that everybody that is in the human race comes from Adam and Eve. Adam was a black man. Adam was a man of color. So that tells me that if Adam was a man of color, then all of us in humanity are all related to each other. Number two, if Adam, which we know is true, was a black man and Eve was as well, then why is it that those that have a lighter skin and a darker skin are fighting against each other when we're actually fighting against mankind, against God's creation? God created Adam and Eve. They multiplied and replenished the earth. There is only a difference between 0.5 millimeters and 4.0 millimeters that actually is the skin itself. That small fraction of color difference, that small fraction of skin is what is dividing people in this country, because one person is a light-skinned Negro and the other one is a dark-skinned Negro. The truth of the matter is that we all come from Adam, and we are all Negroes, and we are all the N-word if you choose to use that word. There is no separation between blacks and whites. We are all of one man's seed, of one ancestry. So to those that think that white supremacy is the dominant race, or white supremacy is controlling the country, let me share this with you. They're no more than Negroes just like you, because they all came from Adam and Eve. I'm trying to figure out what's the problem with this country with racism. We say we are Americans. Well, let's go back into history. The only Americans that were here during the time when Columbus came over to what we know as North America was the Indians. Okay? So the Indians are the only true historical Americans, North Americans. Now, the rest of us, including blacks, whites, Hispanics, Chinese, Japanese, and everybody else, are immigrants. Just because you was born here, you are not indigenous to the land that you live in. Period. The whites came from England. The blacks came from Africa. The Chinese came from China. The Japanese came from here. And people came from all over the world to America. And we call it America, the home of the free, the home of the brave. And this land is your land and this land is my land. Well, that is not a true statement, because the land still belongs to the indigenous people, whether they were exterminated or not. This is not our country. This land originally belonged to the Indian. Now, everybody came from Adam and Eve, so basically the Indians that were over here were Negroes too, because we all have Negro DNA, of African descent in our bodies. Duh, so what is the problem with people in our country? What we fail to realize is that we are all one people. We are all one people made under God. Whether our skin color is white, brown, yellow, red, we are all one people in the sight of God. And if somebody wants to hold the Confederate flag and say, this is my heritage, if they want to hold on to that, that's their prerogative. If I want to hold on to my heritage, that we were the first people in the world that was faced upon the face of the earth, I can hold on to that heritage. I don't have to buy into racism, because racism is nothing but a device that Satan has used to destroy people. We need to go back to the book. We need to go back to the Bible and take a look at history and understand that we are all one people. And there's no difference between your skin color in God's eyesight, whether you be white, black, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Chinese, whatever your nationality is, whatever your ethnicity is, we are all one people. So the fact of the matter that some people call themselves white supremacists, they are not white supremacists. They are Negroid supremacists. They all come from the Negro. They all come from Adam. So what is the problem, people? We are all related. We are all brothers and sisters. We are all one nation under God throughout the whole world, not just here in America. I would say to those believers that say that they believe in the Lord Jesus Christ to stop practicing racism in your churches, black and white and Hispanic and Indian and Mexican and all different nationalities that use the N-word in the privacy of their own home. And not only that, we as a culture, a black culture, use this word too candidly and too loosely, and we should not use it at all. It is an ugly word that needs to be banished from our vocabulary as a people, as a culture, and as humankind. We need to stop the hate not only in this country, but around the world. I don't understand why people are prejudiced anyway, because we all come from one Negro, and his name was Adam, and he was born in Africa. God created him there. What is the problem? I don't understand it. And I just wanted to tell you the truth.